Coming up on today's show, Ryan Blaney opens up the round of 12 with his third win of the season and gets to hoist the Loudon Lobster for the first time in his career. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Talking NASCAR. I am your host, Andrew. Hope you've had a really good weekend. We got to talk about and recap the Mobil 1301 from New Hampshire Motor Speedway today. Really good racing overall. I'll get to that in a little bit, but a crazy race overall. A lot of action, a lot of passing, which is not very normal at Loudon, New Hampshire, at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. It's been a track that's had trouble with passing, and it's been a lot of single groove racing. So we'll get to all that and more in just a little bit. But let's start by talking about some changes I'm going to be doing to wrap up this last stretch of the NASCAR playoffs. I'm going to be trying out a new format for these episodes. I'm going to be trying out something where I start from the beginning of the race. So I'm going to be talking about stage one first, some of the pre-race storylines heading into this, and I'll come back to some of those pre-race storylines when I talk about the finish of this race and maybe the top finishers as well. But I'm going to mostly start off with stage one, stage two, talk about the incidents in there, stage three, the finish, and then I'll go with the top finishers, and I'll look at the playoff standings for this race specifically and all future races going forward in the playoffs. And I'm also going to do my race review at the end. So you guys are going to have to let me know down in the comments, do you like this format better? Because I know I kind of start off with the finish of the race and kind of work my way back to the start, and then I kind of jump to the top finishers and like maybe highlight all the big moments along the way. So you guys are gonna have to let me know down in the comments what format you prefer better. And if I don't really get any feedback, I might just say, okay, I think I might roll with this new one. I do like this new format. I do like the kind of system I have for it and the kind of layout I have for it. But you guys are going to have to let me know. If you guys oppose it, just let me know down in the comments. But with that being said, let's go ahead and jump in to the recap. Starting out with stage one, on lap one, you had Joey Logano leading from the pole with Ryan Blaney on the front row, right to his to his inside, I should say, because Logano, actually, Blaney took the outside and Logano took the inside. Sorry, I got mixed up there for a second. But right off the bat, it was clear that Ryan Blaney's car did not fire off very good, and it would show later on in the race because Blaney could not take off on the short run, fell all the way back down the order very, very far into the teens area. But by lap 12, he was already back up inside the top five. He passed Tyler Reddick. A couple laps later, he passed William Byron for fourth, and then lap 21 passed Carson Osvar for third, and eventually by lap 53, he had run down and cleared his teammate Joey Logano for the lead. 10 laps later, Cody Ware spun right in front of him. I wonder what was going through Ryan Blaney's mind when that happened. But Blaney ended up flat spinning the tires, as well as Josh Berry, who ended up getting up to second, and Joey Logano had fallen down to third. So all of them pitted, ended up making a restart. And to his credit, Ryan Blaney was able to hold on to that lead and was able to end up winning stage one on that one lap dash to the end of stage one, followed by Joey Logano, William Byron, Josh Berry, who was recently eliminated in the playoffs. Carson Osvar, Kyle Larson got some stage points as well. Shane Van Gisbergen as well, who was just recently eliminated, got 7th. Same with Alex Bowman, who got 8th. Tyler Reddick in the playoffs got a couple stage points, and Michael McDowell was able to scoop up that last stage point to end stage one. And I think at that point it became very, very clear that the Penske cars, excluding Austin Cindric in the 2, that Blaney, Logano, and Josh Berry had some of the best cars on track today, and that became very clear. As for the racing product in stage one, we didn't quite get as much of the side-by-side racing we would see later on in the race. At least in my opinion, I didn't see it that much in stage one. Things kind of got spread out a little bit quicker, but as the race went on, that new tire compound, that softer tire compound, would come into play, and that created more side-by-side racing, and we'll get to that in a second. But we went back racing for stage 2 on lap 78. Blaney led from the outside with Logano and Byron on his inside in second and third. But once again, Blaney was able to hold on to that lead, albeit Joey Logano was not making it easy, and he had kept him at bay pretty much through those first opening laps of stage 2. But on lap 82, Josh Berry will get spun from 5th place by Shane Van Gisbergen, technically battling for 5th place on the exit of turn 2. And the way I look at it here, Shane Van Gisbergen having a incredible run, had a really good practice session on Saturday and qualified really, really well as well. And battling with Josh Berry obviously a more experienced short track racer. Shane Van Gisbergen, not nearly as much experience, especially in a Cup Series car at New Hampshire on a short flat oval like this. You expect Shane Van Gisbergen to make some mistakes, and that was a moment like this. Was not able to hold his line, washed up into Josh Berry, ended up spinning him out. Berry did escape with minimal damage and minimal contact besides getting spun by Shane Van Gisbergen, but Josh Berry, his car was still in one piece and was able to continue, and as we would see at the end of the race, Berry would still end up getting a very respectable finish and a very respectable recovery at the end of the race. But we get another restart, and Blaney was able to clear himself of Logano once again, and we saw some really good three-wide racing. This is where that new softer tire compound would really start to come into play, and I thought the racing that was created by this was absolutely superb. This was amazing racing. On lap 93, you had Noah Gragson, Ty Gibbs, Christopher Bell running 3 wide for 10th for multiple laps, and they made contact, but they all were able to keep it rolling, and that was absolutely insane racing because you don't see that very often out Loudon, New Hampshire, and usually when you do, it's usually on a restart where one guy is on the very bottom of the track, that the flattest part of the track, and you got two others side by side on that restart in the outside 2 lanes. But this was actual racing, 3 wide racing, which was absolutely incredible. But now we get to lap 110, and this is where some controversy sets in. Let me set the stage for you real quick. So you have 3 Joe Gibbs racing cars. You have Denny Hamlin in the playoffs, won Gateway, was able to have a solid finish at Darlington, struggled at Bristol last week, but nonetheless in the playoffs, and as well with Christopher Bell and Ty Gibbs as well. And now Ty Gibbs is not in the playoffs like his 2 teammates, Christopher Bell and Denny Hamlin, but Gibbs had a really good race last weekend at Bristol. Bell did as well. Bell, last week's winner as well. All racing really, really hard. Hamlin, Blaney, Gibbs, and Bell. Did I say Blaney? I meant Bell. Sorry, guys. But all 3 of them under a blanket, 3 Joe Gibbs racing cars, and Ty Gibbs was racing both of them very, very hard, and especially Denny Hamlin. And Hamlin even went on the radio and was complaining about how hard Ty Gibbs was racing him. And I understand Denny's kind of frustration here because Denny Hamlin is a playoff driver fighting for his first championship of his career. Christopher Bell as well, fighting for a championship as well, his first championship of his career, albeit a much younger career. And Ty Gibbs isn't even in the playoffs. And you would think that someone like that, a teammate who is not in the playoffs, would not be racing him hard. You would make a competitive fight, but you would be going easy on your playoff teammates. Allow them to get through and allow them to continue their championship push. But Ty Gibbs did not do that. He did not do that. He raced Denny Hamlin super hard and ended turn 1 while batting for 11th. Gibbs in front of Denny. Denny ends up giving a slight bit of contact to Ty Gibbs' left rear quarter panel and sends Gibbs spinning out into turn 1 to heavy contact, heavy damage, and that would end up costing Gibbs the rest of his race. He would DNF after coming back out on track 9 laps down, but he would eventually DNF. So I expect some stern and very awkward conversations to be had at Joe Gibbs Racing going forward. Now, Ty Gibbs, obviously Joe Gibbs' grandson, he's the owner of the team. He's the owner's grandson. Hamlin is one of the best NASCAR Cup Series drivers of all time at this point. He's a Hall of Famer. Maybe not first ballot, in my opinion. Maybe, possibly. But Hamlin, nonetheless, has had an illustrious career. He's a well-established veteran. And in this case, I think I have to side with Denny Hamlin. One, Hamlin, like I just mentioned, is a veteran of the sport. And I believe in a similar situation, if he was not in the playoffs and Bell was, he would easily be moving out of the way. He would make it a decent fight, but he would probably let them go. He would recognize that, okay, these are my teammates. I'm not going to race them too hard. I'm going to let them by. I'm going to keep it competitive, but I'm not going to just let them by, but I'm going to keep it clean with them. Ty Gibbs should be in a similar position here, and should have done the same thing. He should have been able to say, okay, these are my teammates. I'm going to make it clean and keep it battling with them. I'm going to keep battling with them, but I'm going to keep it clean, but I'm not going to make it too hard for them. But he did for Denny Hamlin and ended up paying the price. And after Gibbs was released for the infield care center, he pretty much gave no comment on the questions. He ignored the questions and pretty much said, "We'll go get him at Kansas next week." And Hamlin on pit road after the race said it was very unfortunate of that situation. So definitely some tough conversations are going to be had at Joe Gibbs Racing in the drivers' meetings this week. So I'm interested to see how they will unfold and who Joe Gibbs sides with going forward. And again, I've made it clear that I'm siding with Denny Hamlin here. A part of me does also think, would Hamlin do this if he was Gibbs in this situation, if Gibbs was Hamlin in this situation? A part of me does think, would Hamlin do that, or would Hamlin just race them just as hard? I think it's a fair question to have because Hamlin is a very good driver, but he's also a very rough and very competitive driver. So I'm not quite sure. Maybe Hamlin would do the same thing, or maybe he's not. He wouldn't. I think we'll never know. And maybe, hopefully, we'll get to see the chance if Gibbs ends up making the playoffs one of these years and gets a deep playoff run. So, but that was an incident that was worth highlighting. And I feel like that is going to be something that is going to be lingering for the next couple of days as we get on with the rest of this week. But here we got to see our first kind of use of pit strategy here. Chase Briscoe came down with all the other lead lap cars and only took 2 tires and was able to jump up into first place, was able to restart on the outside, and was able to lead until a caution came out for a massive crash on off turn 2. Several cars involved. From the way I see it, there was a checkup in front of Shane Van Gisbergen towards the front, checked him up, ended up causing Brad Keselowski, who made it 4 wide. Keselowski was coming off the corner super shallow, ended up hitting the inside retaining wall, bounced up into Shane Van Gisbergen, spun him out, ended up having some big contact with Justin Haley, Kyle Busch. Christopher Bell got a little bit in that, ended up knocking the toe out just a tiny bit, was still able to continue on. Daniel Suarez also got collected. Massive crash here, or for at least for a short track, I should say. It wasn't like the big one you would see at Talladega, but nonetheless, a very weird crash. I mean, you had these drivers going 4 wide, like Keselowski had already made it kind of 4 wide coming off of turn 2, and SVG got checked up. Keselowski tried to fit into a hole that wasn't there pretty much, couldn't fit on the bottom lane, and ended up shooting up into Shane Van Gisbergen, ended up wrecking both their races. Shane Van Gisbergen ended up out of the race, so did Brad Keselowski. Justin Haley came back out on the track like 90 laps down with no front bumper. Like, you could see the engine and like the entire roll cage or the frame of the car. It was insane. And that's happened a couple times, I think, to Justin Haley. Like, he came out on track after his back bumper was destroyed at Mexico City, and like had a completely new back bumper with no decals on it. I remember that. Kyle Busch ended up continuing on, but with heavy damage to the front end of that car. Daniel Suarez ended up like shooting up in the air after kind of running on the right front fender of Justin Haley. Ended up shooting up in the air, but Suarez was also out. But nonetheless, a very big crash here. Would cause another restart. Briscoe would once again lead from the outside, but was not able to hold the lead after one lap. And eventually, by lap 134, ended up getting passed by Kyle Larson for first place. And this was where Larson ended up showing, hey, I still got a lot of speed in this car. And we saw that kind of domination Larson that we haven't seen in these last couple weeks. And eventually, Briscoe ended up kind of falling down the order a little bit. Logano passed him for second. And eventually, Logano got past Kyle Larson for first place. And eventually, Larson started falling down a little bit. And he got passed by Ryan Blaney for second place. And then we get another episode of Ty Gibbs, who was still out on track after having a good amount of damage from that prior spin. Bounced off the wall in turn 2 and had to come to pit road with a broken toe link. Ended up driving through the grass. It was just a really tough situation to see, tough to control the car. So I commend Ty Gibbs for being able to stay safe on track and was able to get the car back to pit road. Then on lap 148, we got another caution for John Hunter Nemechek, who spun into turn 3 from 22nd, was marching his way forward. So Nemechek and Eric Jones both were struggling early on today, but Nemechek was able to move his way forward a little bit better. Jones was kind of stuck out back. But John Hunter Nemechek ended up kind of running over those bumps in turn 3. Also sounds like he downshift as he was coming over those bumps. Ended up getting the car unsettled and ended up just hitting the outside wall. Vicious impact as well. Broke the right front toe link. Had a lot of damage to the right side of that car, and he was done for the day as well. But we would get another restart. Joey Logano would lead once again, and he would lead to the end of Stage 2, and he would end up winning Stage 2, followed by Kyle Larson, William Byron, Ryan Blaney, Carson Hocevar. Bell was able to work up into the top 10, and Chase Elliott as well used a little bit of pit strategy to finish 7th in Stage 2 to get some stage points, because remember, in the round of 16, he scored the fewest stage points among playoff drivers, and this was a really good thing that the team did. Alan Gustafson took 2 tires for that 9 team, got him some track position, was able to finish 7th and hold on to finish 7th and get some stage points. Hamlin in 8th, Briscoe in 9th after taking those 2 tires, and then Josh Berry in 10th, scooping up that last stage point. And under this caution, we would see another sense of pit strategy. Austin Cindric took 2 tires and was able to jump up to 2nd place on the restart. However, Cindric was not really able to hold on to that track position for very long. To his credit, though, he was able to hold on to it for a little bit longer than I think. By lap 208, had fallen down the order quite a bit. Fell down to 5th after starting in 2nd, but was able to use those tires. I don't think Cindric had a all too great finish as well. I'm going to look at it here just to get a sense of where he finished. He ended up finishing in the top 20. It was still not a great finish, not what he really needed, but used those tires to get a little bit of strategy going. By lap 208, Joey Logano, though, had extended his lead by over a second to William Byron, but Ryan Blaney was closing in very, very fast, and I think today Ryan Blaney had the best long-run car. I don't think he had the best car. I think that might belong to his teammate Joey Logano or William Byron or Kyle Larson, but Blaney definitely had the best long-run car, and that's kind of been the thing about Ryan Blaney this whole year. Has had one of the best long-run cars. This entire season has been really good on all varieties of tracks and has been super competitive there, and it was put on display here. Ryan Blaney was not able to fire off on short runs, but was able to creep up and gain positions on long runs. Was one of the few drivers that could do that, along with Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott was as well very good at grinding out the finishes and grinding out the long runs, and was able to move up positions very well. But on lap 228, Blaney would be able to pass Joey Logano for the lead in turn 3, and Josh Berry ended up moving up to 3rd place, passing Kyle Larson for 3rd. But we then get our next wave of green flag pit stops. I believe this would be the actual first green flag cycle that we would have all race, and it was interrupted, however, by a caution. Lap 254, Cody Ware had crashed in turns 1 and 2 from 30th, and all the lead lap cars came in besides Josh Berry in the 21 and Chase Elliott. They all decided to stay out, and that's because they had run the last green flag cycle very long, only pitting on lap 241, being the last of the leaders to pit. Sorry, correction. Berry pitted on lap 241. Elliott would pit 2 laps later, and then we would have the caution about 12 laps later. So we would come to the restart with Elliott and Berry both on 10-lap older tires. Everyone else had pitted, and Ryan Blaney took 2 tires while everyone else took 4 tires. And on the restart, Ryan Blaney tried to get to the lead behind Josh Berry, but could not make the pass. So that was on the restart, but 1 lap later, Ryan Blaney ended up clearing Josh Berry for the lead, and William Byron was able to move up to 3rd place. From that point on, Ryan Blaney was pretty much able to set sail. However, on lap 290, Berry was starting to make ground and ended up closing in pretty much to a car length pretty much. But on lap 290, though, Berry got very loose entering turn 3 and lost multiple car lengths to Ryan Blaney. And Josh Berry from then on was not really able to mount another charge, and Blaney was able to set sail for the victory. And there you go. That's pretty much the whole race summed up in about 19 minutes. Ryan Blaney able to get the lead on that final restart and pretty much able to set sail, but Josh Berry kept him at bay for a good portion of that last run before he ended up getting loose and heated up the rear tires and could not mount another charge. But what a race overall from Penske and Ford. We all thought they would be really good at Gateway a couple weeks ago, a shorter, flatter oval, but I guess they saved all that speed for New Hampshire here today. And that reminds me, let's go ahead and take a look at the top finishers. Obviously, we got Blaney here in first, Josh Berry in second. I just mentioned him. William Byron ended up finishing third. Really good rebound after a pretty meh kind of round of 16. Really good finish for William Byron. Ends up in fifth. Did not lead any laps, though. That is still the one thing that kind of stands out to me. Joey Logano, the pole sitter, ends up in fourth after leading the most laps today. So Logano, I think, did probably have the best overall car, but Blaney had the best long run car. So, but overall, though, if you take into the short run and the long run, I think Logano probably had the best car, which I don't think I've said very much this entire year, but Logano still ends up in fourth. Chase Elliott, after starting in 27th, able to finish fifth. Used a little bit of pit strategy, but Elliott, over the course of this day, was kind of like Blaney. Had one of the best long run cars, just not quite the same amount of speed that Logano, Byron, or Berry, or Blaney did have. But Elliott still able to hold on to a fifth place finish, grinded out that finish. He really needed that, really needed some stage points as well, and he got those today. Christopher Bell in sixth, after kind of getting involved in that little scuffle with Gibbs and Hamlin, still ends up in sixth place. Kyle Larson in seventh. And for a little while there, he did look like prime Kyle Larson. Like when I say prime, like race-winning, dominant Kyle Larson. Led 4 laps, though. Didn't last for very long, but Larson had once again a very solid race. Michael McDowell, how about this? Finishes in 8th after starting in 11th. McDowell was very fast here last year with Front Row Motorsports in the 34 car before he got wrecked. And again, that success kind of repeated itself here. McDowell ends up in 8th. Ross Chastain ends up in 9th. After having a really good starting position, was able to kind of hold packed there in like the top 10, mid top 10. I don't think really got as higher than 6th. I think that was about where he kind of stalled out, but really good result for Chastain. He came in below the cut line. I believe he is still below the cut line. We'll take a look at the playoff standings in just a moment. Chase Briscoe in 10th. Didn't really have the best car today. All of Joe Gibbs Racing looked kind of off, and I thought that Joe Gibbs Racing was going to be very competitive here. But Chase Briscoe, still 10th place, really solid result. But he did lose quite a lot of points on the cut line. And again, we'll take a look at it here in just a second. But things have been shaken up heading into Kansas next week. In 11th, Carson Hocevar actually posted the fastest lap of the race, had a really good qualifying effort. Hocevar has been showing more speed rate recently. It's a really good result for Hocevar. Denny Hamlin in 12th after getting involved with Ty Gibbs, his teammate, ends up in 12th. I thought Hamlin would be a little bit better, but still a pretty solid result. Still has a pretty good cushion on the cut line, I believe. How about Austin Dillon in 13th after starting in 28th? Was able to kind of grind out that finish. And he's been very good on these short tracks with high tire wear. He won Richmond, Bristol. He ran pretty solid towards the end of that race, was kind of able to figure it out. And here at New Hampshire, we saw the same thing. I believe at Iowa as well, another high tire wear track. Austin Dillon was able to have a pretty solid result there too. I might have to double check that, but Austin Dillon, really solid result in 13th. Ryan Preece in 14th, kind of a quiet day overall. And then Alex Bowman, freshly eliminated, finishes in 15th. Some other notable finishers. Noah Gragson had a top 20 result along with his teammate Todd Gilliland. Their other teammate, Zane Smith, ended up one lap down in 27th. So really it was Gilliland and Gregson kind of leading the way for Front Row Motorsports. It's been Zane Smith pretty much all year. I mentioned it. Austin Cindric ended up in 17th. Not really what he needed. He came in below the cut line. I think he still finds himself below the cut line entering Kansas next week. He really needed to have a good race, and this was the track that he needed to do it at. Now, the way I'm looking at it, he has to really lock in for the Charlotte Roval because he's a good road course racer. He's not been very good at Kansas in his career. Chris Buescher in 18th. A very quiet day overall. Then we got two 2311 racing cars that are in the playoffs down in the 20s. Tyler Reddick ended up in 21st after starting in 4th. Oh boy. I am shaking in my boots about my playoff predictions. I had Reddick and Wallace both advancing, and right now they find themselves both in a pretty deep hole, like together. They are both in very deep holes, and Reddick had like some braking issues, I believe. I believe he reported early on like some braking issues, like a soft brake pedal. Ended up in 21st, and Wallace, man, started in 14th. I thought Bubba Wallace would have more speed today, but apparently not. Could not back up that really amazing round of 16. Brad Keselowski as well. I think I was mistaken. I said he wrecked out, like that crash that he caused with Shane Van Gisbergen. I thought that took him out of the race. No, it didn't. He ended up in 23rd. But Brad Keselowski was moving his way forward, had some pretty good speed as well. And besides that, Shane Van Gisbergen as well had some good speed, finishes in 32nd. Ty Gibbs also down in 35th. Really tough result, got into it with Hamlin, like I already mentioned. But those are your top finishers from New Hampshire. But let's go ahead and now and take a look at the playoff cut line heading into Kansas next week. First driver out is Ross Chastain, out by 12 points. Austin Cindric in 10th, out by 19 points. And you have the two 2311 racing cars, Reddick and Wallace. Reddick out by 23, Wallace out by 27. Now looking up at the first drivers in, Logano was able to jump up into 6th above the cut line. He's now 24 points above the cut line. Elliott, 14 points above the cut line, gives himself a little bit more of a cushion. And then Chase Briscoe, now up by 12 points. Man, he fell from like 4th down to 8th, the last driver in. That is a very interesting sight to see. Very big drop. And then you got Hamlin fell down to 5th. Bell kind of held packed at 4th with 29 points. Larson and Byron both up by 40 points. And Blaney is now moved on with his win here at New Hampshire. I do really think heading into Kansas next week, looking at the guys below the cut line, Chastain won last year's fall race at Kansas, kind of out of nowhere, kind of played spoiler last year. And then Reddick and Wallace are two 2311 racing Toyotas. And Reddick has won there at Kansas before. Wallace has won there at Kansas before. Their team owner Hamlin has won there at Kansas before. So that whole 2311 racing group outside of Riley Herbst should be really good at Kansas next week. But I'm not so sure about Reddick because I'm just not sure about the consistency. I thought we'd see more speed here at New Hampshire, but we ended up not getting it. And then I don't know what happened with Bubba Wallace. Maybe New Hampshire just isn't the track for him. But Kansas should be a track for both those cars to get some points back on the cut line. And same for Chastain. He was the fall winner last year. So watch out for those three. I'm not very confident in Cindric. He's going to probably have to focus up for the roll and just kind of salvage what he can at Kansas next week. But let's go ahead and wrap up this show with my race review rating, the triple R, as I like to call it. Now, what score should I give the Mobil 1301 from New Hampshire Motor Speedway? If I can remember last year, this race was obviously delayed by rain, and it ended up not being that great of a race. I mean, there was a little bit of side-by-side racing, but there wasn't a whole lot. I compare this to the 2023 race. There was more passing, more side-by-side racing. And looking at this race, 2025, comparing it to 2023, I think today's race easily blows it out of the park. You had great side-by-side racing, lots of passing, drivers who could conserve their tires. Those are the ones that did really, really well. I feel like this might have been the kind of racing that we all wanted to see at Bristol last week, or was kind of anticipated at Bristol last week, especially among the Goodyear people, but we ended up getting what was last week's chaotic race, which I'm still fine with, by the way. Today, we got something more orderly and less chaotic. You had some spectacles with those crashes in Stage 2. You had some good hard racing cause some big incidents like Josh Berry and Ty Gibbs getting spun out. So this was overall a really good race. You saw a little bit of pit strategy, like those two-tire calls made by some teams. Like for Chase Elliott, they worked out really, really well. Chase Elliott got a top 5 finish. Chase Briscoe got a top 10 finish. Austin Cindric finished down in 17th. So for some, it worked better than others. Like Ryan Blaney was able to save his tires and use those two tires to end up winning the race. And that's how, like, that was the set of tires he ran on. Only 2 tires. So Ryan Blaney was able to make those tires work. This was a really good race. The crowd looked really, really good at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. It was a beautiful weekend. Nice sunny skies, great kind of temperature, I believe. Great environment overall. I mean, the broadcast was lauding it up as one of like the friendliest tracks. Like people show up there in droves, and it shows that. So it overall was a really, really good race. Really good race overall. But with that being said, I'm going to give today's Mobil 1301 from New Hampshire Motor Speedway in Loudon, New Hampshire. I'm going to give it a 87%, a really good race. It's a B plus still a B plus race. It might even be pushing for like an A minus A range, and I think it's pretty comparable to last week's Bristol race, just completely different reasons though, in my opinion. But there you go, 87% for my race review rating here for the today's race at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Let me know down in the comments, did I rank it too low? Should it be like an A minus, A plus rating? You guys are going to have to let me know down in the comments below. But that's going to do it for me today, guys. Hope you enjoyed today's race. Hope you enjoyed your weekend. Got a lot more content planned for this weekend. If you're listening on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel as well. And make sure as well, if you are listening on any other podcast platforms, please consider giving this show a follow. Had a lot of stuff going on today. In addition to this race, I was watching my Green Bay Packers unfortunately blow the game. But I watched the Brewers lose their game as well, my hometown teams. But they ended up clinching their division. So that was really incredible. I'll save all that stuff for the other show, Talking Sports with Miles and Andrew, which if you haven't checked it out, go check it out. It's a lot of fun. It's on the same channel, same site as the YouTube channel, and it's Talking Sports W Miles and Andrew on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. So go check it out. It's a lot of fun. Hope you guys enjoy, and I will see you very, very soon for the next episode. I'm Andrew. Thank you for tuning in for today's episode, and I will see you in the next one. Have a great day, everybody.